Welcome back. So in this video we're going to talk about mimetic isomorphism. Okay? And one of my TAs years ago explained that mimetic was kind of like mimic, and therefore you're mimicking other firms. And of course, I've been teaching isomorphism I don't know how long, and I never even managed to put those two things together. So how about that, huh? So mimetic isomorphism, it basically means that when a firm is in an ambiguous or uncertain situation, they look normally outside their organizational field for best practices elsewhere. Okay? So this kind of helps explain why firms that are not in the same organization field may actually look the same. Now, the classic example that DiMaggio and Powell give stems from Japan's modernization attempt. So those of you that aren't kind of big history buffs, Japan was an isolated country, didn't have any contact with the outside world. I believe it was until like after the Civil War. And we basically sent ships over and said, you either trade with we, the U.S., sent ships over there and basically said, you trade with the rest of the world or we will destroy you. And so they decided that they'd probably rather do the trade than get destroyed. So in their attempts to modernize, they said, you know what? Let's figure out what the best practices in the world are and let's imitate them. And so they sent agents all over the world to study the best practices of the Western powers. For example, they sent officials to England to study the post office and their civil service. They sent officials to France to study their military. They sent officials to the U.S. to study how we do business. And then they took those best practices that they observed from their officials and they brought them back to Japan. And so the Japanese model of modernization was kind of a hybrid of best practices from the U.S., England, France, etc., etc. Okay? Now, in the contemporary world, mimetic pressures are also very prevalent, and they're prevalent with consultants. Consultants are like honeybees that going from flower to flower, or consultants go from firm to firm, spreading best practices across firms. If I were to draw my organizational field back up, they'll say, you know what? I know you at Wendys have a real problem, but you know how they solve this problem at Chevron? They do it this way. Wow. And then, of course, Wendys adopts some sort of a process, a procedure, or a technique from an organization outside their organizational field. Now, one of my other passions is Lean Six Sigma. And, guess what? Six Sigma was an approach that is generally credited with being developed by GE, and it is a process that is generally seen as industry standard for manufacturing companies. Okay, that's another example. So again, when you don't exactly know what you're doing, you look to other organizations outside your normal organizational field, and then you basically just mimic or imitate it. Now in our next video, we're going to talk about normative isomorphism. And again, if you like these videos, give me a thumbs up, comment, please subscribe, and looking forward to seeing you in the next video.